But this really comes down to people. It comes down to, in a moment of choice, do I open the proverbial kimono? Do I bare my heart? Do I show my cards? And do you do the same? And what I've been noticing, particularly around communities of practice that are thinking of these kinds of things and are trying to explore the way into collective coherence and ways for us to play better together, is there's this consistent and sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, sad, frustrating, concerning, but it's a pattern that seems to come up, which is that folks are discussing these ideas and concepts. They are realizing, yes, game A, boo, game B, yay, you think the same things, we say we're believing the same beliefs, let's get together and play. And there is often an initial spike of enthusiasm, excitement, feeling met, and a sense of, holy shit, maybe this is how we get this done, right? Collaboration. Many of us have been carrying the burden solo, and a lot of our paths to get to this conversation have been by exclusion and exception. We have found ourselves persistently misfit toys, persistently cast out of the socially defined norms, persistently losing at game A, not because we are necessarily bad at it. We might have even been able to win at it. We've just found it distasteful or not satisfying or not congruent. So there's a lot of, bumps and scrapes we've accumulated along the way. And then we get to this place where we find our nominal allies, our nominal conspirators, those who breathe together. And there's often a spike of optimism, euphoria, possibility. And then we get to this stutter step, where it's like, wait a second, if we're really going to do this post-egoic thing, if we're really going to dump all of our puzzle pieces out that we've been carrying so carefully, right, and mix them all in together, and holy shit, maybe there's even a bigger picture that none of us had, but our puzzle pieces fit together beautifully. Wait a second, am I sure? Because I've taken a lot of hits to get here, and this means giving up all control. This means giving up all safety. This means that giving all guarantees, and even my cherished vision of the version of the future, right, that I've been living and dying for. And as we do that, as that vulnerability, it's like, okay, well, I'm self-aware enough. I think this is good pain. This is productive distress. I think I do need to open and relax into this. But then something fucking happens. And there's a conversation, there's a decision. We start seeing our humanity poke back through all the idealism. And we see somebody do something that we're like, I'm not 1,000% sure that was quite right. We see money, power, influence, control. What do we do on Monday morning, right? Who gets the credit? Who strokes the check, right? Who gets the likes? Who gets the post? Who gets the funding? Who gets the peer-reviewed rights? Whose name is on the top of the paper or the book? And suddenly we go back down into the inevitable substrate of game A. And we've started out seeing each other's light from each other's light, right? In many ways, most of us, we've gone through our lives looking for who's got the shine, right? Who's got the shine? And in middle school and high school, it's often those crazy charismatic kids that act out, and razz the teacher and do this. But you're like, that kid's got the shine. Let me gather around them. I want to be close to them. Or the captain of the sports team, or the star in college, or the one who always seems to know. There's always something about those folks that seems like they're on the inside of the secret. And we're drawn to them. We seek them out. That's who we feel we want to be with and our people are with. So we find each other and we say, I see your light. Hail, fellow, well met, right? And we're drawn to that. And then as we accumulate these error messages, and as we go from sort of this mirage of crystallizing infinite game B possibility, and then we start seeing, maybe shadow, maybe blind spot, maybe ego or pride or contraction, then boom, 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 we go back down the floorboards to seeing each other's shadow from each other's shadow. And there's this persistent pattern I've noticed, is that the people we've often been closest to, aligned around some of the most aspirational, positive projects possible, we often end up spitting bricks and pissed off, hacked off, cynical, you don't really know them, they're not all that, or we end up fracturing from the very people that, despite our mishits, Despite the frictions and the tensions, we are absolutely on the same team, rowing in the same direction. And yet we end up more distant from them than we are even from the quote-unquote opposition. And my sense is okay, so how, given all that, can we recommit to seeing each other's light from each other's light, right? And my sense is if you do that, like if somebody's burned you a few times, you're naive. You know, you're the Ned Stark of the world, right? You're like, I'm going to go with honor and duty and do the right thing. And, you know, as Cersei once said, you know, the Game of Thrones, man, you know, you win or you die, you know, and I don't remember who gave him that advice, but like, just don't ever go to King's Landing. In fact, I think it was Jordan that said that. We were riffing on this. He's like, the rule is if you're Ned Stark, don't go to King's Landing. So how do we hold honor and courage and, you know, and decency and hold up that infinite game at the same time as just not just leaving us exposed to get slaughtered by those folks still playing game A and manipulating the finite game. So you can't be naive, right? And yet, on the other hand, we have to trust. We have to trust. And in fact, there's a great book called The Trusted Advisor. It comes out of Duke Business School. But I highly recommend folks checking it out if they're interested. But they've actually boiled trust into an actual equation. And they said that trust is credibility, like I actually have the capacity to do the things you think I can. Reliability, I do what I say I'm going to. Plus intimacy, I actually feel connected to you and you to me. I feel that you get my world, right? And that's a part of your thought process and decisions, all divided by self-orientation. And so because that's the self-orientation is the denominator, you can destroy a very high score across the top. If somebody's saying, I'm not convinced we're in it for the same reasons. I'm not convinced that person isn't covertly playing game A dynamics, rivalrous dynamics with game B lip service. Effectively, the covert sociopath, right? And so Jordan and Daniel have articulated the idea of rule omega, and we actually riffed on that last talk together. And the idea of rule omega is basically, you know, and back to information ecology, is to say, I commit to presuming that there is signal in your noise, and that I am going to inquire until I find the truth that you are holding, no matter how messy or noisy it is or as you're presenting it, right? And they actually made an interesting clarification after that talk we had, which is that rule omega cannot be demanded by another. It can only be extended based on mutual agreement, based on that intimacy, right? But my sense is that for us to be able to, after seeing each other's shadow, go back to encouraging each other's light, right? I mean, Goethe has that great quote. He says, see a man as he is, and he will only and always be as he is. But see him as he could be and should be, and he will become what he could be and should be. So how do we do that, right? Without leaving ourselves exposed.